Well, here we are. Command and Conquer Generals 0 Hour. It is technically an expansion pack to Generals, but the community at large considers it more of a 1.0. It adds a lot of the cut content, fleshes out the factions more, and really there is zero reason to play Generals over 0 Hour. And to top that note off as well, you aren't playing 0 Hour for its campaigns either. You play 0 Hour for the Generals Challenge mode. This is why you buy the game. The Generals Challenge has multiple pre-made campaign-style single-player missions that you go through after selecting a specific sub-general for the 3 factions in vanilla. Each got 3. Air Force, Laser, and Super Weapons for the USA, Toxin, Demolition, and Stealth for GLA, and Nuke, Infantry, and Tank General for China. Each of these sub-generals has unique units and powers specific to their specialty, like the Air Force General not having access to mainline tanks, but has combat Chinooks that allow infantry to fire out of their portholes, and elite versions of all aircraft. This mode rocks. It is formatted similar to OG Street Fighter, with your chosen general challenging the others one after the other in various orders depending on who you choose. You get an intro and a versus screen, and an enemy general actually has voices, and taunts you throughout the game. Even contextual based on your strategy, which adds a kind of intimate touch, as if he is watching what you're doing. Like when you run out of money, most enemy generals laugh at you for being broke. It's funny how the campaigns for both games have 0 characters or development or dialogue, yet here in the challenge mode you get so much personality and character to add to immersion. Unfortunately, this mode could have been so much more if the devs had more time. There are 2 cut missions that have been replaced with mods like the infantry and demo generals, since their missions are absent in vanilla 0 Hour. But their voice lines and missions were still in the game's data. The Shockwave mod, which is my personal favorite, refreshes the Demo General's mission, which you understand why it was cut because it fucking sucks, and adds 3 more sub-generals per faction. Also, Google Gen Launcher and Gen Patcher. These are essential for playing this game widescreen with high resolution and with the improved UI. They are free, safe to install, and the launcher allows you to download and run mods easy peasy. If you want more of a General's fix, then I recommend the free mod Rise of the East, or CNC Reloaded. Rise of the East adds the Generals factions to the Red Alert 2 engine, so you can play Chinese versus Soviets, for example. They even added ships like the Chinese battleship, which is literally just the Japanese Shogun battleship from Red Alert 3. CNC Reloaded is similar, but it combines Red Alert and the Tib War series, so you can play GDI versus Allies or Soviets versus Nod. They are really cool and multiplayer compatible. So what are we doing here? Well, I'm going to answer, can you beat 0 Hour Deathless? I'm going to play through all 3 standard campaigns on hard difficulty and see if I can get through without a single unit lost. I will use the units lost on the score screen as a guide, so if this says 0, I win. Certain things luckily do not count as deaths on the score screen, like the USA vehicle drones, although they aren't that useful anyways. Stinger sight dudes and the tunnel rebuilding workers on GLA buildings. Cargo planes and the A-10 Warthogs don't count either, even though the adjutant will exclaim, "Unit lost." They don't actually count. This was hard. And yes, some of it was the enemy strategy and AI, which is surprisingly impressive at times, but the difficulty came from the game and mechanics themselves. Anyways, enough waffling. Let's find out if we can do this. Mission 1. Global Security. So I got a lot of comments saying I played the first game out of order, which I think I'll be mentally okay, since that game's story is barely existent. Having said that, according to the wiki, this mission takes place not long after the end of the OG game, with the USA striking out to retake the missile silo that the GLA used to launch missile strikes at a port in Europe. The gist of all of these campaigns is Dr. Thrax and the GLA are being assholes and are pushing the USA out of Europe while China comes to save the day. We need to reclaim the Cosmodrome, but in order to reach them, we need to contact an old enemy of mine. We get the new USA unit, the Sentry Drone, which is a stealth machine gun unit that we will never use. We start with some standard solid units like the Paladin, which is a tank with a laser point defense drone which is solid at shooting enemy rockets out of the sky. We get dangerously close to getting bombed by terrorists and sedans, and we even get access to a Chinese Overlord. I elect to upgrade the Gatling cannon on the Overlord since it trashes infantry and detects stealth, but I probably should have gone Speaker Tower as it has an area heal around it. Getting this guy to Vet 3 means the Overlord can solo most of the encounters here, so I move him in to pick off isolated targets and pull back. This mission, like most missions in this game, consists of trudging through stingers and demo traps, killing more and more GLA. I actually think you fight the GLA in every single mission of all these campaigns, besides the GLA, even though they do have a mirror match. This mission has a problem with giving me reinforcements, and it's always useless ass infantry. They get airdropped in front of a garrisoned palace and die, so I need to micro them out or snipe the palace before they land. So, the Cosmodrome is on an unreachable island. So how do we get there? Well, if it isn't Thomas the Tank Engine. In an uneasy truce, Thomas ferries my army to the island, and after a couple micro mistakes, we manage to kill and capture the enemy base to win. Moab comes in to finish the job. Why he couldn't have done this from the start? I don't know. I guess he was scared of the 2 stingers. Mission 2, Defending the Docks. The GLA are attacking us at the docks while we are trying to supply the locals with aid from supply trucks. We have an aircraft carrier and 5 battleships to call onto for support. It's a shame this game didn't have a naval aspect like the Red Alert series, but this game tries to go somewhat for scale, so these ships would be way too big for normal gameplay. You can use them like airstrikes though, except the carrier. I didn't want to risk a unit loss for them. I didn't check to see if they counted as a death, but why risk it? The battleships come in handy as I can just target them at the enemy defenses while I turtle. You get waves of infantry drops in the front of your base, which more often than not gets me killed, so I gotta micro them and hope the timings of the enemy waves don't overlap. You get 2 bunkers here, which is nice. 1 Pathfinder, and the rest rockets should keep you safe. One unit which comes in clutch this whole campaign was Colonel Burton. I always slept on Burton as a kid. He just didn't seem as useful as Jarman or Lotus, but he is a great asset here. He does okay damage at a mediocre range, but his stealth. His attacks kill stingers too, which is nice. I couldn't quite use his demo ability since he needs time and to be in melee range with buildings, but he can often shoot them down from a safer distance anyways. And just battleship strikers to soften the enemy defenses. Some Comanches help clean out the rest. I wish I had naval support in every mission, Jesus. I do save scum this run as well. These missions are long and grindy, some up to 5 hours, so forgive me for save scumming. Saving doesn't always work though, as we will see later. Mission 3, Snowfall. Now this is an interesting mission here. Special thanks to the chat, especially for SKL-1 for going deep into the guts of this game to figure out timings, attack paths, and molded cheese. This is a commando mission, which is really tough. But, you see, there is some crazy shit you can do to bypass this mission. We are supposed to bring Burton and 3 drones to rescue some people or blow something up. I'll be honest, I didn't play this game casually, so I don't know the objective. You see, the thing about this game is, it's messy. The maps are not what they seem. What you see is not actually the full map. There is a full screen length of land outside the borders, and this is how the devs bypass some tech. You see, we have a mini-map here, which normally you need a command center for, but we don't have one. Or do we? That's right, off-screen in the darkness of the abyss is a full USA base, with power plants, command center, war factory, barracks, and a strategy center. And if you box select well enough, you can actually select these buildings, even though the hotkeys for selecting them doesn't work. Now, this is tricky. You have to be extremely precise, and it literally took me almost an hour of just boxing until you can select the power plant to recycle it. You have to get the camera angle at a very specific spot too. Then just keep boxing. Rotating the camera at this specific angle is really finicky since the off-map base is just out of view. Eventually, I managed to select the command center and build a dozer. With this dozer, you can order him to drive on screen on the other side of this river. From here, you can build a whole base. You have just enough money to get a supply pad. This whole part of the map is completely empty. I think they use this for the intro cinematic. From here, tech up and bring Burton to the objective to finish the mission, just as the devs intended. I didn't even need an army. You can either just walk him or transport him to this objective now. This off-map base thing is actually in a lot of missions, but this is the only one where you can really use it to cheese the level. Another quirk is a lot of missions have empty vehicles for you to commandeer. Instead of just having an empty vehicle asset for the devs to place on the map, they instead summon hundreds of Jarman kills to use their snipe abilities to empty the vehicles off camera and then delete them. I mean, it gets the job done, so right on. Mission 4, Black Gold. This is going to be a big battle. We have to destroy the GLA again, but we get a full base and tech tree except for superpowers, and have to deal with enemy scud storms and sneak attacks. Basically, sneak attacks are a summon tunnel network anywhere on the map, empty out a whole army and kill everything, similar to a Nidus worm from StarCraft 2. Rebel ambushes are spawn a horde of rebels anywhere to cause problems as well. The thing is, the triggers in this mission state that the enemy will only use sneak attack if you make base defenses. I learned this after a few failed attempts, so we need to defend the bases without defenses. Okay, but there are bridges leading to your base which have civilian towers to garrison, and luckily this game you can repair them with dozers. I then make tomahawks and attack ground where the enemy scud launchers typically park and build the Avenger unit to laze rockets and scuds out of the sky. The key to this mission is destroying the enemy scud launcher before it can fire. Scuds are devastating super weapons. Massive AoE, toxic leftovers, and when American buildings blow up, Rangers pop out. So with a poison, it's almost a guaranteed death. I load up some Humvees with snipers and rockets and make a defensive line to the north and just block off the bridges. Enemy terrorists will endlessly stream to your base from the north until you destroy this propaganda building or something. They aren't a massive threat right now, we really need to deal with that scud. When planning routes, I noticed that their buildings were damaged, and even in one case the scud launcher was weak enough for a Warthog strike to kill it. This was a failed attempt, but I learned that the two enemy GLA aren't actually friendly to collision, and while running through their base with terrorists, were getting run over by each other's vehicles, causing a detonation which was damaging their structures, even killing their barracks at one point. This was RNG and unreliable at best, so I elected a commando strike. There are 3 CIA agents hidden throughout this map, but they are singular infantry that when rescued aggro enemies, so I avoid them and use old Burton. I plan a route with a Chinook that actually leads just outside the GLA main base that is unguarded. I fly in, drop him and a Pathfinder, and leave. With some finagling, I managed to get Burton close enough to damage their stingers and then eventually shoot down the scud. If you stand him right here in between the hedgehogs and the sandbags, you can shoot the scud unharassed. With the scud down and Burton level 3, you can pretty much solo the rest of the base with him. Once Green's production is down, the mission is over. The oil derricks are a trap. Do not cross these bridges. A cool mission and a cool outcome. Good planning, tricky micro, and a deathless win. Mission 5, Area 52. The last mission. We have to capture 5 missile silos deep in enemy territory. We start off with a base in the south, but a rescuable GLA base directly up on the hill to our right, giving us access to both tech trees. I learned on this level too that fire bases are not protected from toxin tractors, so instead I build the Uber bunkers, the GLA palace, and put missile defenders inside to protect my base. Apparently, building supply pads or particle cannons triggers the enemy to use sneak attack, but it doesn't count to black markets and scud launchers, so that's the solution. Free money and super weapons. The rest of this mission is straightforward. Just scud and use Burton and Jarman Kell to pick off stragglers. Now, I might be making this sound easy, but each of these missions had like 20 tries or more. This is also the first instance of save corruption. Throughout the game, and especially on one mission in particular, there is a chance for your save to corrupt and crash the game. This is extremely disheartening as I lose hours and hours of progress, even if I save every 2 seconds. Even with the mods and fan patches, this is a consistent problem. I am just highlighting the best bits. Scud away and slowly crawl through and capture the silos to win. There we have it, USA campaign, 5 missions with 0 deaths. On to the GLA. Mission 1, The Great Escape. So it turns out the GLA are splintering. Dr. Thrax has just gone too far and being too evil, so we need to evacuate our supreme leader and be less evil, somewhere else. We get introduced to the motorcycle, which is like the Allied IFV and Red Alert. Any infantry can get on the bike and become a better version. Even hijackers and Jarman Kell maintain invisibility on them. They can also drive up mountains, but are mega fragile, so will be risky to use.
You ever take it off any sweet jumps? You got like 3 feet of air that time.
When I see this leader, which I assume is us, the player, I can't help but think of that film The Dictator, which is actually quite a funny parody, which matches the tone of this game at times. This is an A to B mission, where we need to evacuate the leader via this airport guarded by the Americans. This mission is a little tricky since we have such a low tech tree and the enemy base is guarded by fire bases, which has a strong explosive range that seemingly hit scan here. There's a cliff path that leads behind the enemy base that motorcycles can use, so I have the idea of driving a worker on a bike behind the base, put a tunnel down, and then transport the leader through the tunnel. But the bastard's car cannot enter tunnels. Tanks and quad cannons, no problem, but not this car. I remember that fire bases have a minimum range too, so I simply just need to butt rush the fire bases and fire at them from point blank range. This does the trick, and then the rest of the base falls easy enough to allow us to escape. Mission 2, Hidden Agenda. I'm going to start by saying, fuck this mission. Okay, Prince Kassad is being an asshole, and we need to take him out. So, it's a GLA mirror match. This was absolutely grueling. You start in a tiny base and are surrounded by stealth enemy units, defenses, production, and even American Pathfinders, since Jarman Kell wasn't enough. Their quad cannons are invisible for fuck's sakes, which he doesn't even get in the General's Challenge. This means you need detection everywhere you go, which means the enemy can come at almost point-blank range before you can fire back at them. You get attacked at all angles, even from this high ground, and you will run out of money quick, and you can't build black markets here. The other big problem in this map is the save corruption. Apparently, this level was put together with duct tape and is rampant with glitches. That means 90% of your saves will corrupt, and the saves that weren't might corrupt randomly at a later time. I had over 40 saves throughout playing over 5 hours, and maybe 3 saves survived at various intervals, which meant I pretty much had to Iron Man and play this in one go, which was torture. Luckily, you do get scud launchers, so I figure out their attack paths and just attack ground. The toxic residue also damages to the following waves as well. I also swear the enemy cheats with stats sometimes. It feels like the enemy quad cannons just have some secret damage buff, because it seems like they always 1v1 and win against mine, even with full scrap upgrades. I could just be insane, but man, it feels like the enemy units are overtuned. The key to this mission is the bridge to the north. If I can secure that, I can secure this entire side of the map. But there's an enemy base that is hidden in the northeast. That means slowly crawling, grinding, dying, restarting to get close enough to blow them up. I try to secure the bridge, but forget there are snipers hidden in the hills too. This mission sucks so hard. Marauder tanks with scrap upgrades are actually beasts, but their turrets don't turn, so in order to attack they need to physically face the enemy, which in this game is a clusterfuck of tanks twitching back and forth while they get shot. I managed to secure this bridge and start taking out production. There is an unreachable high ground that you need to sneak attack to reach, but there are shitload of defenders and stingers waiting for you. I had to make a dozen radar vans and spam the scan abilities to reveal the dicks. I attack around with scuds and clear out what I can, sneak attack and clean out what's left, and finally finish the mission. There we go. 5 hours and, 1 death. What the hell? 1 fucking death. After 5 hours and over 40 crashes and corrupted saves, I apparently lost a unit somewhere, somehow, 20 minutes in. Probably a random worker or technical somewhere, and I will be honest, I'm not going back to this. I'm going to take the loss on this one because my sanity was on the brink of collapse with this mission. My chat was forgiving and agreed that while I legally lost a unit, you can certainly beat this mission deathless, even though I didn't technically. Mission 3, on the waterfront. Bit of an odd mission this one, and an absolute mess of triggers. We need to destroy an American aircraft carrier using sneak attacks to island hop around. We start on an island with a commando force and are expected to use hijacker units to capture enemy vehicles. These guys are jank city. Sometimes when they capture the vehicle, they die while capturing, yet still get the vehicle. And then I learned later that some hijackers are actually still entities on the map, just inside the vehicle. So when they get hit by a rocket, the splash will kill the innocent hijacker in the vehicle. I was wondering why I was getting unit loss when my tank got shot, and that's the only rational explanation. We are intended to capture this particle cannon and then eventually capture power plants to use it to our advantage, but capturing this triggers enemy paradrops that attack the cannon, and this can get really annoying. In this game, the enemy general powers are bullshit, especially USA, because they will also launch A-10 Warthog strikes against us as well. The command centers are the key to this. Destroying command centers makes them unable to use these powers. Unfortunately, USACC is deep inside one of the most fortified bases in the game. I like to skip capturing the particle cannon and use the spy drones to plunk out a sneak attack. Doing this disables the ability to rescue this mini base and a Jarman Kell, which kinda sucks because he's really handy on these levels. Instead, I skip the first island and go for the second. I hijack some tomahawks and use them to slowly blow up the wall of patriots and bunkers in my way until we rescue a full base. Here, the enemy activates and starts sending constant waves of Comanches at you. They still paradrop the particle cannon as well, but since it's not ours, they kinda just sit there. I scrap upgrade a bunch of quads and hold position on the beach and try to sneak attack the enemy island. Doing this rallies their defenders, and there are a lot of them. They infinitely stream towards you, but it gives you an opportunity to do some damage to their power. I learned later that if you destroy all 3 of these supply pads located outside the American base, they stop producing. Would have helped knowing this beforehand, but an interesting quirk nonetheless. There are a couple extra islands to explore. One has a bunch of scrap and another has some Chinese vehicles, but it's just too far out of the way for me. We can upgrade to stealth rebels, and using the motorcycles can scout the enemy positions once their defenses are down, but they do have a strat center here to spot. This process was grueling. The enemy sends wave after wave of tanks, tomahawks, and Avengers to just shred you, but eventually I managed to shut their power down by recapturing the plants on the original first island. If you do not rescue the tunnel next to the particle cannon, they will not launch Warthog strikes, which is good because American buildings when killed spawn Rangers, which will absolutely die. Capturing these plants does trigger their carrier to send fighter strikes, so we need to act fast. I think it's finally time to capture their particle cannon. Some quads clean out the Rangers, and the timer starts counting down. I sneak German 2 into the American base now that their power is down, and the enemy does not care about their flank. I place a sneak attack inside their base and snipe their command center, but they do not react at all. I then laze the carrier to finally finish the mission. This was a tricky one. Some tricky maneuvers, but overall, solid once we figured out the triggers. Mission 4, German Kill and the 40 Thieves. Another kind of interesting no-build mission. We have German and a pile of hijackers and are tasked with stealing drums of toxins, big surprise, and load them onto a cargo plane. We have 2 teams, German and some hijackers, and then some rebels and hijackers. We basically need to complete steps with each team that sort of leapfrog from your other team. German will need to capture these tomahawks and blow up a bunker so Team 2 can move up to secure the pump station and so on. We load German and some fellers onto this ferry and take them to the beach, which is covered in demo traps, so you need to move slowly. This tomahawk station is the first roadblock. These tomahawks are required to defeat the defenses for Team 2, but they are blocked in this concrete enclosure which cannot be cleared. I tried target firing, running them over with vehicles, but it seems there's an invisible wall. So these tomahawks will be useless after. But the thing is, once you destroy the defenses, 2 raptors are then set on a kill course for these tomahawks. They will not miss, and they always come. Nice. So shit, what are we supposed to do here? I like to just capture 1 tomahawk and see if I can get the raptor to miss, but no dice. But, thanks to a brilliant chat member, Emily, we solved this problem. So apparently in speedruns, you can order the tomahawk to enter the ferry on the beach. Since there's a kind of uncontrollable animation for anything entering the ferry, the tomahawk thinks it's close enough to magnetize to it, and well, flying tomahawk!
They fly now? They fly now!
Once the tom is in the ferry, the raptors don't have anything to shoot, so circle the area before flying home forever. The rest of the map becomes trivial because once we have 2 tomahawks you aren't supposed to have, we clear out the defenses, garrison all the buildings, and rescue the quads. Capture the American airports and build raptors of our own. Once we capture the toxin warehouses, waves of enemies will spawn in and attack the supply trucks. It's pretty easy peasy though. They only come from a few directions, so prepare, garrison, and engage the waves. Mission 5, Sneak Attack. Last level, and it's a big macro mission. We start with a Chinese base of all things, which is neat. And that means we get Big Daddy Helix units. These choppers were added in 0 Hour and are awesome units. They can be upgraded to be a propaganda chopper that heals in an area, a Gatling cannon, and a bunker to house infantry to shoot out of. And they are also decently tanky. So a secondary mission here is to rescue some GLA prisoners in the teal American base and bring them to an orange ally in the north. The ally will then build a base of their own and help fight the blue Americans, who have a massive base to the north. Teal will attack you pretty frequently here, and the blue base will remain dormant for a time. They will activate if you build a nuke silo or kill all of Teal's production. We need to take Teal out quickly, so I fly some helixes and trial and error a good path through the enemy patriots. The annoying thing is, once you're in the vicinity of rebels, they come under your control and count as deaths if they die. So as soon as I touch them, I garrison them in this tower and slowly dismantle the enemy base. I capture the command center and leave the helixes over the last barracks where they can spawn kill the infantry that come out. This should give us some time to build up, since if you blow up this barracks, blue will activate. Blue will eventually turn on regardless, but oh man, they are nasty. Their aircraft are the biggest problem, as well as their command powers, the Warthogs especially. Oh, and they build 3 particle cannons. 3! RNG will dictate how I survive these particle cannons, so I weather the storm. It is impossible to attack his base. I activate my allies as well. I should try to protect them, but they eventually get destroyed whether or not I rescue the rebels, so it's a lost cause, and it's nice to have an AI ally to soak up some damage. They will be absolute chads and absorb tomahawks and airstrikes for me. The rest is a slow nuke dismantling of the American power and then command center, then the airfield so they can't send raptors. When they are depowered, I can slowly pick them apart. Comanches help clean up the rest, and with that, we have done it. GLA on hard, deathless. Sort of. Apart from something dying in GLA 2, but I'm pretty sure GLA 2 gave me cancer, so I'm pretty over it. I'm just going to move on. China 1. The Dragon Unleashed. I build for China. Home stretch here, gang. We are near Stuttgart, Germany, and surprise, surprise, have to destroy another GLA base. We get an Overlord tank to start, so that's my strategy. Put a GAT cannon on it to detect the plentiful demo traps and try to get him to Vet 3. Self-heal and rapid fire makes this guy a beast, and since there's only one, his pathing AI isn't as bad. Not much else to say here, just pick your fights and eliminate key targets. Mission 2. Defending the Fire. This was the first mission I thought would be impossible. You start with a small base in the center of the map, and you need to defend a massive nuclear reactor with no dozers, no war factory, and 4 built-up GLA bases that send constant attack waves in a 360-degree arc. We need to defend until reinforcements in the form of helixes arrive. No dozers mean no repairs, so your bunkers and other buildings will eventually just get whittled down over time. You luckily start with multiple nuke cannons, so I find common attack paths and target fire the lanes, but that doesn't help. The enemies are relentless here, and even when the helixes arrive, you still need to defend. There are rescuable squads of infantry around the map, but do not do this. Doing this spawns enemies that beeline to the squad, often resulting in death. This isn't going to work. I need to try something, because just sitting on my ass and getting assaulted won't cut it. I need to attack. I take a look at the map editor and see that all the GLA bases only have 1 production structure each, and the south base looks like it's in range of my nuke cannons. If I can target fire this location, I can stun at least one of the enemies from the low ground. So I move into position and blow up the arms dealer and barracks, but realize they don't rebuild them. Most other missions they will immediately rebuild all structures lost, but this is a game changer. I can snipe these and leg it out of there, making this base essentially worthless. I might be able to sweep counterclockwise and snipe all the base's production with a small escort. Easier said than done, but after a few failed attempts, I managed to sneak into the southeast base and knock out the production and get back out safely. By now, the reinforcements have arrived, and they're uncontrollable. They fly in and land and unload squads of infantry right when an enemy attack wave hits, and by Christ, what terrible timing. I managed to survive with only 2 enemy bases left. I can lock down the defenses at home and use the newly acquired dozers to repair. The enemy bases have plenty of stinger sites, but they do have blind spots. I managed to sneak my helixes behind their lines and snipe their production, being careful not to trigger rescued allies. Once the production is down, it's still a pain in the ass, but we just need to clean up to win. This is the perfect Deathless mission that makes these challenges worth it. Seemingly hopeless, but with some strategy, some tricky behavior, you can overcome the challenge. Mission 3. Liberation. This is it. This is the mission you all clicked on this video to see. I got many comments on my other Generals run saying that China 3, you can't do China 3, and you know what I say to that? You're absolutely right. This mission, can we talk about this mission? Let's talk about this mission. This mission was a fucking abortion in every way. This campaign's flow and difficulty is a mess. The graph would look like this. Couple small bumps and bam, friggin' Everest spike, and then back down to a lull. This mission, we're gonna talk about it. Apparently, even the devs were like, damn, this mission is not stupid enough, but let's fuck with the player even more. So, let's get into it. You get a tiny base in the bottom corner with a wide open berth. You are tasked with destroying these statues of AK-47s for everyone before your social media popularity drops. So, tick number 1 for mission variables I hate. A timer. I hate timers in all games. I get why they are there because this game is already pretty lame with just build base, destroy GLA base, but I still hate them in all games. StarCraft 2 uses them way too much.
And then?
Let's take your entire tech tree. No tier 2 or beyond, no long-range vehicles at all, so no inferno cannons, no nuke cannons, no overlords, no super weapons.
And then?
Let's take your air force. This one makes sense since you could probably just make spam the statues.
And then?
Let's take your secondary money source, but leave you with a whopping 3 hackers.
And then?
Let's take away all of your useless support powers. No arty, no paradrops, no EMP bomb, and apparently you did have a carpet bomb, but a glitch in the code took that as well, and it just went fuck it.
And then?
Let's give the enemy their entire tech tree and also give them an off-map nuclear reactor so they produce 50% faster.
And then?
Let's give them a half a dozen of each production building, and they're hyper horny for rebuilding.
And then?
Let's make them uber aggressive and attack with infinite waves of long-range scud launchers.
And then?
Let's litter the map with demo traps, and I mean like over 100 demo traps, which the enemy will rebuild.
And then?
You think that is enough? No, sweet summer child.
And then?
Let's hit and run with rocket buggies, like better micro than a pro player. This little fucking shit pump will relentlessly scoot in, let out a volley of high-range rockets, then turn around and leave. Killing it does nothing. They will just send more. Oh, that's enough. How could they fuck with you even more?
And then?
Well, Kimasabi, they also use rebel ambushes and order the rebels to capture all your buildings. So you need to keep defenses and detection at home. But you get listening posts. That's it. I tried everything. I tried a ring of listening posts, but they get revealed when they fire. I tried completely migrating my base, but they got killed by demo traps. I tried rushing their base, but they had tunnels scattered everywhere that come filled with units that pop out and gotcha bitch you. This mission is so overtuned, like no hyperbole here. The difficulty spike is hilarious, and it is topped off with a time limit, like a really tight time limit. I feel like without this time limit, I might be able to slowly pick away or outlast their money stash, but this timer requires you to get aggressive. This mission is considered the hardest mission, even casually, and I get it. So after a few hours, I just considered this impossible for me. Somewhere, someplace, someone could pull this off. One of my viewers said he did, but it took him 6 hours of save scumming, pre-planning, and reading the triggers and messing with the map editor, and I just don't want to do that. So I decided to attempt a different challenge I've been thinking of trying. Rifle infantry only. So I spam out red guards, and they immediately get hit with one scud and die. So let's just play this casually, and holy shit, I was constantly struggling with money. Enemy scuds and just getting harassed. It was so tight to get these statues down when it came to it. Apparently, the lower the timer is, the slower it goes, but like barely. This was the worst mission by far, like even worse than GLA 2. GLA 2 was stupid because the save corrupts, but this level was pure cancer. I had to reset from even playing casually, and by Christ almighty, what a fucking pain in the ass. Over 150 losses. So, pretty close, huh? Mission 4. Burning Skies. This mission is a joke in comparison. Like, the difficulty drop was so drastic. GLA will come off map and try to escape on the other side, so we need to engage. Helixes will be king here. We also have an entire town filled with oil, arty, and other capturable buildings to help. The hardest part of this mission is just the dumb AI. I don't know how many times one motorcycle slipped past 10 helos and 3 overlords because they will not shoot sometimes. They just won't shoot. And the quad cannons. Another case of my imagination, but man, it feels like these enemy quads are just so much stronger than mine. Like, one quad can kill a full vetted helix and he doesn't even have armor-piercing ammo. Just be careful of your positioning and pick off the waves piece by piece. Bunkers, tank hunters in buildings, and new cannons for their scuds. It took a few tries, but just be precise, but compared to China 3, this one was a laugh. Mission 5. The Dragon's Destiny. Well, this is the end. The big bad final mission. The Americans have bailed and scarpered, leaving all of their shit behind. The GLA promptly captured this, and now we have to face both a GLA and a USA base while we build a Chinese empire. We start with a solid base, but with a wide border to defend. The Americans will attack relentlessly from the west, and the GLA from the west and the south. Scattered throughout the map are empty American vehicles, which we can capture. These are the vehicles that were apparently sniped by dozens of different German kills, by the way. But I ignore them for now. I scout out south to see an enemy GLA base. Well, it turns out these are fake buildings, so now we can capture them and upgrade them to be real, but it's way outside my borders and will be just hard to defend later on. I make a Lotus and see if it's possible to cheese. At the very south of the base, there's a hospital that, when captured, heals infantry automatically across the map. Only one stinger guarding the back of the GLA base. You can actually land a Lotus, and if you be careful of the demo traps, can wreak havoc here. I capture all the black markets, the command center, the arms dealer, and the barracks. Now, they barely react besides their stingers, and it doesn't look like they rebuild, for now. Back home, I set up a series of bunkers and gat cannons, but the American attacks are getting nasty. There's also a German kill sniping my vehicles, which strangely doesn't count as a unit lost. The enemy does use frequent sneak attacks too, but with their command center down, I can relax. I leave their supply stash up and just use Lotus to constantly steal their money, but according to my sources, the enemy starts with 50 million bucks here, so it'll be a while before I can drain them. Things are going okay, but the Americans do have a particle cannon that I have to be diligent about. It seems to strike randomly because at times it goes for my overlords, at other times it goes for the captured GLA buildings to the south, and I am going just too slow. I park helixes outside my base defenses to take out tomahawks, and they can remain here alone for a while, but eventually the enemies will start sending raptors to my base. These raptors are just too hard to deal with. They are fast and they can one-shot most units, and they go for like my helixes or nuke cannons all the time. They will build them infinitely too, so the pressure of tomahawks, raptors, and now Avengers to laze my helixes, I just get overwhelmed. My bunkers die, and the troops inside get shot as well. I strategize with my war council and learn that there is an American dozer to the south that I can capture. I take the night, and the next day I hatch a plan. First thing I do is build Lotus and a tank hunter, load them into 2 helixes and bring them to the dozer. Pick up the dozer and bring it home while bringing Lotus to her cheese station. When at home, I get a war factory and start pumping Avengers of my own. I fortify my base with Avengers now. They can not only fry aircraft, but also shoot down Tomahawk missiles and stun other units. I then build particle cannons of my own. They have a 4-minute cooldown, whereas nukes have 6, so it's just too hard to try and survive with that many enemy particle beams while waiting for nukes. This time, the GLA actually rebuild their production, but not their command center. They also build a Scud launcher, which will be a problem too. I capture it and sell it, but chat thought it would be beneficial to wait for its countdown to reach almost ready and then capture it. That way, I can fire it myself before selling it. This is a good plan. And with the Scuds, my own particle cannons, I start taking out their power and command center. There's still a pesky American dozer rebuilding power plants, but they do not rebuild their airfields. Once I get the upper hand and shut off the American power, I laser their factories, their barracks, and then bring the helixes for cleanup. Without their super weapons, the GLA and Americans crumble under the pressure and die. The perfect end to the campaign. A tough mission, but with a proper plan and execution, becomes a well-oiled machine. So, there we have it. No, I could not beat 0 Hour Deathless. One mission impossible, the other stupid, but the bulk of the game can be done. I really hope that this game gets a remake or a remaster with updated controls, better graphics, because this is probably my favorite of the CNC series. Thanks for watching with me this far. Thanks for the continued support. See you guys on the next one.